Welcome to Bloody Good Horror.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Bloody Good Horror. We are here tonight to discuss the Forever Purge. Definitely not going to get political up in here tonight, John. This is just going to be a real vanilla milquetoast discussion about entertainment.
Yeah.
And entertainment, John, is never political, so I don't think we have anything to worry about tonight. Next up, joining me, period, tonight on the show from Maryland, please welcome John Schnorrs to the show.
Hello, Eric.
Next up on the show, from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello, Eric.
And lastly tonight, from Richmond, Virginia, the place that she is from, please welcome Caitlin to the show. Oh, you're muted, friend. Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
All right, well, while Caitlin figures that out, John, you know what I was thinking, John, that they can take all of the political stuff out of like school curriculums in like some of these southern states. They can't stop the purge.
No.
They can't stop these purge movies are like F off. This is what
The next one's actually called Purge, Critical Race Purge.
Yeah. God damn right it is.
Purge : CRP. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are developing a new one. It says on the Wikipedia page, this was meant to be the final, but they've now it did pretty well. I mean,
it ends like here's the next one.
No,
which I kind of appreciated.
I feel like it ends. I mean, whatever.
No.
Spoiler
it fully
alert.
ends
Like,
just fully set up for the next one.
Oh, totally.
really? All right. I'm very curious what you think they're gonna do because I feel like it's just basically like, the world's fucked now.
John, it literally ends in a cliffhanger that's like, is there going to be America anymore? I don't know. Tune in next time on The Purge.
Sure. Yeah, but all right. Well, okay. We should address this later in the show, but
yeah, I'm just saying. Caitlin, you're back. Can I hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Here we go.
Hey.
New phone. Who dis?
Casey, come on.
All right. Now that we have Caitlin back, let's do it. Let us forge on into the great unknown of America, John.
I think we're gonna solve it tonight. Actually,
I think we got this. Let's take a quick break and review the Forever Purge.
This is it, Senator. Your big break in TV. Of the prime time. Main feature.
And we're back. You know, Caitlin brought up an interesting point, John, pre-show, which is that no one says the Forever Purge in this film. They do, however, say Purge Ever After, which is what this like group calls itself. And then Caitlin...
I think in the very beginning when it kicks off, someone yells Forever Purge.
It's interesting. Yeah. And then Caitlin said Purge Forever After. And I was like, well, that should have been the name of this movie because it combines both and is better.
Very fairy tale.
Purge Ever After has a nice Disney flair to it.
Yeah. Or you could have gone corporate, and it could have been like Infinity Purge, with like a real corporate looking logo. You know?
They would need some. They would need some logo work.
Dunder Mifflin Infinity kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. John?
Yes.
Does it make you uncomfortable when you're watching movies like this?
I mean,
Joe's not here, so somebody's got to do it.
I'm pretty sure I'm like one of the good guys in this movie.
I'm just saying you're in a house right now that would definitely have the shutters.
Oh yeah. But the thing is,
I'm in the
world of
fucking rec.
Purge-
I'm in the rec center huddled with everybody. You got the shutters.
So, but Eric, we were talking about this last week. Like in the world of the Purge, like 30% of GDP goes into like preparing for the Purge.
The entire economy would revolve around it. There's no way otherwise.
So, but like even that rec center had shutters. Like
Yeah.
it was like completely run down, yet had these
Yeah.
like pretty.
Do you
intense
know what
shutters.
would
So,
be?
John, those shutters are called garage doors.
Do you know what would be a job, John? Is like they would need people just to pick up bodies in effluvia the
Oh,
next day.
Yeah.
It that's on the radio.
Like-
There's like it's like right that initial next day scene. There's like the news guy and he's like, "Oh, crews are disinfecting the streets." You know,
Dude,
Take
I
all the
love.
corpses.
Oh my god, I loved those little news bits. Those were so brilliant because what's brilliant about that scene is he's so flippant about it. Like he's reading it fully in a morning show voice. Like this
Well,
is
and
just
you get the distinction between there's like a Fox News type one and there's like a CNN type one.
But even
'Cause,
that, but this guy that John's referring to was almost like
Yeah.
was a local morning show kind of guy. Like this
He's
guy
like, well,
was
we're gearing up for good weather
Yeah,
and we're
like-
gonna go ahead and get these bodies off the street.
this guy was reading like he was doing the weather from like a 4-H thing, like a county fair kind of situation. It was
At least it was a dingo and a baby.
it was just amazing. Okay, John, I'm gonna toss to you here in a second. While you talk, I'm letting you know right now that I'm not gonna listen. Because I'm gonna go to Wikipedia and try to find some quick and dirty synopses of all the Purge movies, so we can
yeah,
we
there
can do a
is
little previously on the Purge before we get into this.
there
here.
is a Purge franchise page.
I'm going
which-
there. I'm going
yeah,
there right
can-
now, John. While you bring
Okay.
us the word of the day.
Today's word, Eric, is jacquerie. Jacquerie.
Jackery.
Yeah, it's pronounced. It is
Yeah.
pronounced Jacques, but no, it has a J. Jaqeuerie. It has one definition: a communal uprising or revolt.
Ooh.
Comes to us from the early 16th century French, and it refers to the 1357 Peasants' Revolt against the nobles in northern France. From the Old French, literally viens, from Jacques, a given name used in the sense peasant. So it was a peasant uprising, but now used more colloquially as a communal revolt.
Got it. I came back for
Very nice.
colloquially.
I can't.
I already learned something. You know what movie I forgot about, John? The first Purge.
Movie The Purge in the Purge franchise.
Okay, I totally just got booted from the call, which means we heard none of that, John.
Oh well,
But we're
I
back.
don't mean.
So, John, the first Purge.
Yes. Was it? So I was saying, is it? Did you mean the first Purge,
no.
the movie, The First Purge,
Yes.
or the first
No,
movie?
I mean,
The
I forgot
Purge,
the
with
last
Ethan
the
Hawke?
last movie that came out
Yeah,
was
yeah.
called The First Purge, and it was like, wasn't it Staten Island or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was
pretty
that to
good.
me. No, it was. I thought it was really good. Like that's where the movie. So I never saw Election Year. You all will have to tell me. I feel like the first Purge went like very hard at like social justice.
No, it
And,
didn't.
like-
No. See, like it was there. This is. It did and it didn't. I don't think it did compared to this. What
I
I
mean-
think, this is my thesis on the Purge films. I wasn't gonna get into it this early, John, but we're here, so let's do it. The first Purge came out. I believe it came out the summer that like Trump was running for office.
No, wait. You're talking about the first Purge.
Jesus
the movie,
Christ,
The First
John.
Purge?
Yes.
I'm sorry. It was
First
Came out in
2013.
2018.
It was
2018. It
2013.
came out.
No, we're back. Okay, well, this is what we're gonna do right now, John. We are gonna go back to the Purge 1. How's that?
The one
That's
with
what
Ethan
we're-
Hawke.
Yes, the Purge 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was way before Trump. Like way.
2013. That's not way. I wouldn't call that way before Trump, but I would call it before.
Yeah. Okay.
For those
Continue.
at home, John just rolled his eyes at me. Just
I rolled my eyes very hard. Yes.
Okay, let's just go through them then. Let's just go through them and talk about. Okay, so Purge 1, 2013. Ethan Hawke is a salesman of these shutters, basically, who the conundrum. He has been made rich by the Purge, basically, because he sells these security systems. His wife, Lena Headey, or Headey, however you want to say it, of Game of Thrones fame. And that movie
Theme.
basically
There's only one way to
that
say
movie
it.
basically centers around the family, really, like his
Yeah,
family.
It's a straight home invasion film, but with like sci-fi overtones.
It does touch on some racial stuff, but not hardcore. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's like a black guy who's trying to get into the house at one point, and the daughter's like saying
Yeah.
"let him in," and Ethan Hawke like I
Well,
think
they do. They bring
Yeah.
bring him into the house. Yeah.
not an amazing movie. Made about $90 million on a $3 million budget, which is wild. That's insane.
Yeah. No, it was really good. It was like one of the not OG Blumhouse, but it was like
Blumhouse,
one of the
yeah.
early Blumhouse things for sure.
That was our
It-
first exposure to Schnarr's purging too. On
I
screen.
mean, listen, as annoyed as I get with the Blum sometimes, what he has done is show Hollywood at large that this is the formula. Get good, interesting scripts. Just interesting. Make them unique. Like, they don't have to be amazing. Make it unique, a little bit of money. You don't need any faces in it, and go to town. And like,
Well, he has famous people, but he just is
Sometimes.
not paying them a shitload of money. I
Sometimes.
mean, Ethan Hawke, Lena Headey was like,
well, in that
it's-
case, yes. But like,
But-
it's Ethan Hawke. Like, it's from,
well, yeah.
Okay. Second one, Purge Anarchy. I believe Purge Anarchy is the one that gave us the infamous scene set to the cover of Party in the USA.
I thought that was election year.
That is election year.
Is it? Are you sure?
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it's election year. Yeah.
So in Purge
And
Anarchy,
two is the
Purge Anarchy, we step to the other side of the Purge, where we are basically in like a lower income community, and we have basically a waitress and her daughter who venture out into LA during the Purge, eventually running into an anti-Purge group. So this is the first time we're introduced to like the resistance, kind of.
yeah.
Yep.
What's that? Frank Grillo, isn't that his name? Is that
Frank-
the one with Frank Grillo?
Well, he's in multiple ones, but that's the first one he shows up in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 20.
That's the one where they're making their way through the streets. Pretty much the whole movie. It is in opposition to
Well,
the
you're-
first movie's home invasion.
Yeah, I mean that's been everyone since that one, but yes, yeah, he was in that one. Then the next one, 2016 Purge election year. See what they did there, John.
Mhm.
Frank Grillo reprises his role, and basically he's supposed to be protecting this senator, basically.
She's like anti new founding fathers.
Yes, and that's where we really get into the mythos of the founding fathers. I think that's the one that ends in the scene where they're all there, right? Don't they get killed or something? Like, I don't even know. There's a scene where they're all like at their annual Purge gathering, and it gets invaded by the resistance. That's what I seem to remember from election year. Yeah, it takes place in election year. The election is between a member of the new founding fathers and a senator who wants to end the annual Purge after losing her family as a teenager in the Purge. That one made $118 million, John.
Yeah, these movies do okay.
2018, first Purge. So this is the
Yeah.
one that takes place Staten Island, and it was basically an experiment. That was kind of cool because you got to see like people willingly signed up for that one, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
localized.
Do you
only
remember there
to
was
the
all that
island.
crazy shit with the block party?
Yep.
Do you remember that? Yeah, that's what I remember.
I just remember how jacked that dude looked at the end of the movie when he was
Yes.
going in to like clean up. I mean, that
that one
I
made
can't
this
remember the
isn't so.
actor's
This
name,
is
but
a
he's
super another interesting thing.
huge.
Okay, so if you look at and we'll get to the movie here in a sec, but first movie 89 million, second movie 111, third movie 118, fourth movie 137. These are worldwide. That was the first Purge, made 137. So, and then this one, I don't know how it did. I'm sure it was.
It's like it did like 36 is the number I saw globally, which
Yeah.
you know.
I think the first Purge is the one that starts to get really. I mean, they're all political and they ramp up in sort of their,
They
political
were-
messaging. But the first Purge is, I think John's right, is the one that had a lot of social justice messaging.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, because they were specifically doing it in these, like doing this experiment in the, this lower income area, but also like what you heard a lot in the movie was people debating, like, what is this? Like, what's the good in this?
Yeah.
Like, who's being exploited here? It was, yeah, you're right.
Yes.
it becomes more of a left film in that, at least in that one. I haven't seen Election Year. I mean, obviously it ends with the new founding fathers getting thrown out, but
I
like,
remember liking Election Year because it gets hard into the resistance stuff.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Well, before you continue on, Eric, don't forget that there's also 2 seasons of the Purge TV show that's in this too, that kind of
That's true.
covers the area of what happens behind the scenes, like with the folks that are monitoring the cameras from like the main locations for the NFFA, making sure people are using the rules and stuff. And it shows you what happens between purges.
Have you seen
well,
the
that's
show?
I was very curious what the show was about because like the setup is brilliant for a movie because it's like, hey, it's one night. So it's like you've got this defined time, like you can set up the like characters ahead of time and then they go through this event.
Dude, it's just remake 24, but it's the Purge.
Yeah. But they did it, but they actually, and my wife made the comment when we watched the series, we watched both seasons. Colleen's point was she always wanted to know what was happened in between the purges, like with the government and stuff, and the TV show kind of covers that angle of it.
Casey, can I ask you a question? And I want you to be very critical and honest with me here. Is it good?
It's not terrible. It's not garbage TV. It's not Game of Thrones or anything, but it's not bad.
Got it. Okay.
Is it last season of Game of Thrones?
Oh, John,
It's
that's
better than
mean.
that.
That's mean. So here we are. It's 2021. It's the Forever Purge. And real America, John, is just getting sucked into a hellhole chasm. So like this movie has a bar to hit to try to be a satire.
So someone mentioned, Kaylin, I think you might have mentioned over email, this was actually scheduled to come out last summer.
Mm-hmm.
That blows my
Which is
gourd.
crazy.
I mean, I've been telling people about this movie. It was
Listen,
the first time.
does the person who wrote this movie know did they know something we didn't? Because if it was scheduled to come out last summer, John, that means it was written like a full year before that.
Yeah. No.
Well, I mean, politically, we've been leading up to what happened for a long time.
Well, what
Not
happens is I feel
totally
like they
out of the
keep,
blue.
but I feel like they keep in trying to this is kind of what my thought was, I guess, in trying to keep ratcheting it up and being more insane every time and more in the nose, they're like accidentally portending real things that are happening.
No, I mean, look, the other thing that's worth saying, like the film is very centrally focused on illegal immigration, right? And so like that was an issue in like 2016, 2017, 2018. Like it kind of like went away for a little in the pandemic. I mean, but it's been back. It's like back. If anything, they like benefited because it like came back at the beginning of the Biden presidency. But
or the other theory, Blumhouse runs Q.
yeah, that's
Well, we'll get into. I mean, that's the crazy thing. Like, my point is when they wrote this movie, your average person wouldn't have known what Q was, and now the parallels are like kind of insane.
I have some thoughts about like
There's a
there are some
specific
issues.
there's a specific aspect that I'm talking about. We'll get to it.
Okay,
John.
yeah, no,
Well,
that's fair.
I think generally speaking, though, it's not hard. For this to have come out before what happened on January 6th, like it's not hard to like connect those dots and draw that line, even if So it's like, I don't know. They may have made a few tweaks in post, but I feel like this makes sense. Like,
Listen, Caitlin,
I'm sure someone who was in tune got it.
Caitlin,
Mhm.
these people sold their souls to the devil, and they can now see the future, and they know where we're going.
No,
And
like,
you'd be wise to listen to them.
Yeah, we get to see the
predicting-
movie next year.
predicting that something bad was going to happen at some point. It's like,
Hey, that
like,
seems
oh,
like we're
yeah,
not going in a
Trump
great
can-
direction, you guys. Maybe, John,
Let's
tell me, give me the bullet points. What's the plot
Yeah.
of the Forever?
let me get the character names up because it's okay. So the two main characters here are Adela and Juan. They are illegal immigrants who the movie opens with them crossing into the United States, like basically paying-
Undocumented, John. Undocumented.
Is illegal immigrant not the right phrase? I don't-
Undocumented is preferred nomenclature, we'll say.
All right. They are entering the country illegally as
John's-
undocumented immigrants.
There we go.
Here's the
Caitlin,
thing, like I think just to put all of our cards on the table, I'm fine with open borders. Like everyone should be able to come to the United States whenever the hell they want.
Caitlin, John's not in the internet.
So-
Okay, he gets a pass.
Yeah. So like,
I worked
But-
with immigrants for a long time, so this is close to my heart. So I just wanted to get in there.
all right, they are undocumented immigrants, but they are
John, you better
They-
hope that you believe in open borders, because according to this movie, you're going to need to get your ass to Canada. Toot sweet.
yeah.
I've never
But,
been so thankful to actually live this far north than when I thought about how fast could I get to Canada.
Yeah,
The
I'm
movie
host.
opens with them coming across the border. They're like they're not kids. Like, I don't know how old they're supposed to be. Like, the actors are probably in their like late 30s, if I had to guess. But like, you know, in any event, they're like, it's like a young couple. They come across the border. Fast forward now, we see them. Adela's working at like a butcher shop.
Yeah, and we're in the Southwest, the American Southwest.
Yeah. They live in Texas. She's working in like an industrial butcher facility, and then Juan works as effectively a cowboy. I mean, he works on a like big ranch. He like thinks of himself as a cowboy. They call themselves cowboys. I don't know. I never thought that like people would have the job cowboy, but like that's effectively what they're doing here.
Lots of people have small dicks, John. It's okay.
Gaucho, I believe, John. I'm just gonna keep doing this until I get kicked off the show.
Gaucho, I believe that's in Argentina.
It is Argentinian. They talk about Argentinian cowboys here.
So yeah, and so they work on the Tucker Ranch. So then you have Dylan Tucker and like his wife, who I think is Cassie. Harper is his sister. These are like, you know,
is her name really? Is her name Harper? That is so perfect.
Well, because they keep calling her Harp.
That's so perfect.
And then you have TT, who's like Juan's best friend, who, you know, I don't know if they came over together. I can't remember, but
or
if
if
they just like,
do they call him that? I love that.
TT. Yeah.
Now that's a name, John, not like Harper.
So that's sort of like a crew, and we see them pre-purge basically the day before, 2 days before, whatever, and then it's sort of this like ramp into the purge. We see both Juan, Adela, TT. They go to this. It's effectively like a YMCA, like a, you know, community center where they like pool their money and they pay like people to come basically be guards. They're like, I mean, what's the word I'm looking for? Like mercenaries, super high powered guns, but they keep them safe. Everybody survives like through the night, and it's mostly sort of other immigrants or you know, Mexican Americans. And then we also see the Tucker family on their super fancy ranch, you know, with all the shutters and yada yada. Everybody gets through the purge. They're going back to like go through, you know, their day, get back into like real life, and it just like pops off. It actually starts, Eric, with the newsman. He's like doing his like on the street, like, oh, the purge was pretty wild this year, and you just see someone like shoot him in the head.
Yeah, well, that's
like
the next day. Yeah, I got to say too, it always strikes me in these movies how flippant people are. It's like 45 minutes of the purge, and people are just out on the streets, or these rich people are hanging out in their house, and the guy goes, "Hey y'all, it's time to close those shutters." And it's like, bro, give yourself some time. What if they don't work?
They were literally like waiting for the bus to come pick them up a day later on, and it was like, you're supposed to be here 5 minutes ago. I'm like,
John, what if you wait till 6:15 and it starts at 7, and you click that shutter button and they don't come down? That shutter guy's not coming out to fix those shutters.
No.
And I guarantee you, I'm working from home on Purge Day. I don't really care. I'm just not going to leave the house.
I'm not commuting on Purge Eve or whatever.
Eric, we got to get into the thing you raised last week. I think it was either raised, like, where are the arsonists? Because these shutters are not stopping the arson. In any event.
There are some people with rocket launchers, which I really appreciate as a shooter video game fan.
Well, one of the rules is like class 10 weapon or lower, so I don't know where.
Yeah, it's class 4, but like,
yeah,
they don't explain what the weapon classes are. But like, what, like a Molotov cocktail? That's pretty basic in my book.
Well, but at this point, everybody's ignoring the rules, John. So
yeah. Well, so all right. So basically, what happens is in the next day, they're all trying to go back to their lives, and actually now we're living in the world of the Forever Purge because a group of it's basically a populist uprising,
have organized themselves in secret beforehand and vowed to continue the purge the next day.
Yes, that the have-nots are going after the haves. At least that's the way that it is like pitched. It
very quickly reveals itself to be basically a white supremacist organization. Like it's very heavily discussed.
There are some splinter groups.
Like that's where like the politics of it are a little they like do dance around, because like the main person that we see who goes after the Tucker Ranch is one of the ranch hands who I mean, is a Mexican American or an immigrant. It's sort of not made. We don't actually know anything about him other than he like works with the other.
I'm pretty sure he was supposed to be American.
He was a white dude, but his shtick was he was like, we're going to seize the power back. And it was sort of like a more left-leaning, more communist type of, engagement with the Purge, whereas the other splinter groups that most of the movie focuses on are the white supremacist groups that want to take America back and kill immigrants. So, I mean, there are a couple of different factions, and they're all sort of leaning into, we're going to just be anarchists and have a forever Purge.
Well, and also, I think the
I was
movie...
confused because I thought the ranch hand was like another one of the like Mexican American people that worked on the ranch with them.
Interesting.
So that threw me.
No, he's a white dude, because he has a conversation with our main character in the beginning after they give him the bonuses where he's just like, listen, like this dude doesn't give a shit about you. Like, something's up with this dude because he's like...
No, yeah. He says, I'm going to use my bonus on something different, wink, wink, or something like that. So, I mean, but that's basically the setup. So the main thrust of the action is that Dylan Tucker, who's sort of set up to be a little bit of not a little bit. At one point he says like, I don't have a problem with Mexicans, but I just think like should stay with like or something like that. It's like,
he's not far off.
He is a character that is set up essentially in the beginning as his archetype is like, this is a rich kid who is handed everything in life, who is trying to be cool. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like, trying to be cool is definitely racist. The father is set up as not being that way and kind of disappointed in his son, but also not really like doing anything about it or calling him out. But when the father is killed by this ranch hand uprising, basically you have racist cowboy son, his wife and sister, who then team up with our essentially main characters are immigrants, because it's the Forever Purge and it is pure chaos, and their rich people ranch is no longer safe. So they team up. They go back and forth trying to get everybody banded together, but then eventually what happens is the Mexican government and the Canadian governments announce our borders are open for American refugees who are unarmed for the next 5 hours, which is like, okay. But so then the movie becomes the race for them to get to the border and escape America, and that becomes the setup of like the third act, basically.
Yeah, the sister Harper is like set up as explicitly good from the beginning. She like has a really, close relationship or is developing a relationship with TT. Like she's just, she's unambiguously.
They are careful to give, regardless of the fact that this whole family of these rich people are all basically benefiting from the same imbalanced system. They're very careful to give the rest of the family kind of narrative cover by having the son be like a pretty big villain, like in the beginning. Like they give, obviously we can talk about it, they give him an arc, but like he's at dinner and he's like, no, I don't want my kids speaking Spanish. And they're all like, they all look just concerned enough that you're like, okay, I think they're disagree with him, but they're not
like
saying
not going
anything.
To challenge him, but they're definitely like, whoa.
Well, his wife even says like, that's a little rude, honey.
No, he's straight psycho in that dinner scene. Like that was,
and she is expecting. That's one thing we need to mention too. His wife is
exactly.
Okay. Let's get into it here. Caitlin, what are your general quick Purge thoughts of the series, and what do you think of this one? And it's okay if the answer is I haven't seen them.
I like the Purge movies. This is the first one I've seen in theaters, though. I usually wait until they're streaming.
You are welcome.
What's that?
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we can get into later why this was a really memorable experience for me.
We got to save that story for a fan mail or it's going to derail the whole show.
Oh my God.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell my story first because I have a story too and yours is way better.
And Casey's got one too. So I like the Purge movies. I remember when the first one came out, people were really obsessed with the concept, and it is a really interesting concept. Like, it's something that, it's sort of like with Saw, like you have like the moral traps and everything, and this one we have, what would you do if crime was legal? They're these really simple concepts.
It is a prototypical high concept film. Like, you can tell someone what it is in one sentence, and they're like, oh.
Interesting, yeah. I liked this one fine. I was looking at Letterboxd reviews, and there were a lot of folks that were upset at the political messaging, and a lot of it was, right-leaning folks hating that this was a left-leaning message. But I will always be down to watch Mexican cowboys lasso and kill white supremacists. Like I mean,
Yes.
there's really cool cowboy wrangling here. The action is good. The violence in this one is pretty intense, and you see it. I mean, you just see more of it given the scale of what they're working with here.
I mean, it's straight up like Saving Private Ryan at one point. It's like insane.
I mean, and in this one we have like tanks running through the street. There's chaos. There's no order. I liked it. I really liked the setup that they had with TT and Harper. I do think that we get a few characters that don't get fully developed. We get like this roving band of alpha white supremacists that like I could have done without them because the stakes are high enough without them that we don't really need them.
They needed to like
it gives you a face, and it gives you this direct conflict for the third act. Like I understand what you're saying. But...
and this is sort of the challenge in all these movies is like the bad is like how fucked up the world has gotten and how like fucked up society is, but they need to like personify it because you can't it's why I do need to go back and watch Election Year, because I do feel like that's the one where they try to like tackle the new founding fathers as a bad, but in any event, sorry to interrupt.
No, I mean, I guess I just those characters were, I don't know, for whatever reason that didn't feel as fleshed out as it could have been, but it also would have made the movie much longer had we gotten more of them. So I don't know, I like this one. It was fun, and when we get into spoilers, I'll have a little bit more to say about some of the romance, but yeah, we'll get there.
Casey.
I'm a pretty big Purge fan. When it first started out with Ethan Hawke, I liked it, and my wife has watched and seen all these with me too. She wasn't as big on the first one, but to me, they've progressively gotten better as they go. And yes, the political commentary has gotten heavier, but I've always enjoyed that political commentary and what they're showing us on screen, so I've always enjoyed that aspect of it. And this one just played right into it, and it feels really prescient with everything that's going on in our country and stuff these days. And it's going to make you sit up and take notice and tack that on with the cast is done pretty well in here, and they set up the characters well. The action and the violence is really good. I really like this a lot. I got a lot out of it, and I was kind of edge of my seat through parts of it, and I haven't had that experience. It was my first time back in the theater for a year and a half, so that played into it well, but it was a good time.
Love it. John.
Yeah, I mean, so this was my first time in the theater since the pandemic kicked off.
How
since
was it,
The
buddy?
Hunt. I mean, I didn't see The Hunt in theaters. Do you remember the last thing we almost saw was The Hunt?
We did on demand, yeah.
What
a world, John. We're all different people since then.
Well, and talk about a political film to,
that's true.
But so I was really happy to be back in the theater. I did not have any wild experiences other than just like teens running wild, but just in like normal teen ways. I mean, like I had a really good time. I like this movie a lot. I've been like telling people about this movie a lot. It is one of the most political things that I've seen, certainly in like a theatrical film. I mean, like there's like documentaries that are more political than this for sure, but for something, this kind of mass market skewed, it's super pulpy. Like I will play the role of I don't know, not naysayer, but it's not like the script is not like super clean. It's not there's a lot of shagginess here, but it's like I have like affection for the type of shagginess.
Part of it is I think it's really ambitious in the scope of what it's trying to take on, like thematically.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Like there are moments where it feels like a open air train, like car with a bunch of shit in it that's just barely staying in. It's just like barreling down the tracks.
Yeah. No, and look, like, but I also think part of it is like the setup, and this is, when you have a film like this that's crime is legal for a day, like you gotta really work to make the characters, real characters. I think if anything, you basically have Adela and Juan, who like Adela is like a character. Juan is like 80% of a character. Everybody else here feels like 50%, which is enough for a movie like this.
It's an action movie, bait for a lot.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I want to talk about at some point is like, this is like, we've gotten very far away from this as a horror franchise, in my opinion, which is totally fine. But it just is what it is. So yeah, look, I had a great time. I enjoyed this for a lot of different reasons, not because it's like fine cinema or anything, but because it like is a really pulpy political stew. That's, I don't know.
I would go so far as to say that I loved this movie, and I would say, John, like, sure, on like a snooty movie critic scale, maybe this isn't high cinema, but when you look at these other movies, that's like a discussion in film circles, right? Like, what's the rare sequel that was better than the first movie? Bro, let me tell you about a series where 4 sequels, each one was better than the last.
Yeah.
That's insane. And I'm not even talking about it by increments. This movie is so by far the best movie in the series. It is wild. And you can tell that. So when you talk about the genre switching, John, it's like the other films were very focused on the kind of atmosphere of the Purge, and they were always really interested in these like iconic visual sort of like horrifying horror movie visual moments, right? So you got like the neon masks, right?
Well, and you had the like bunnies in this one
in the first
had that
movie,
whole Saw thing set. That was like the weirdest sequence.
In the first movie, you had like the Schnars looking dude when they were wearing like masks.
Very
and, like,
handsome.
But that was where those films started feeling like horror movie things, where it's like the people purging often like to create horror movie atmosphere, and that's almost in some ways as far as it goes. But this is also a series so crazy out there conceptually wise and violent that no one else will have this series, John. Like whether or not you want this is ours.
This
is our child at this point.
Yeah.
Well, also counterpoint, we live in hell, so like this is going to be reflective of the horrors that we live in. So.
This movie almost made me uncomfortable with how intense it was. Like almost made me be like, I don't know if I can like my senses can handle this movie. It is that intense. And a lot of it has to do to me with just like the realness of the kinds of tension that they are talking about. It is like when you live in America in 2020 and you're really paying attention, to me that is to have some form of anxiety fairly often about like the state of the world and where we're headed, both like politically and socially, and thinking about like societal instability and stuff like that. What this movie does is like reach into those fears and like personifies them. That's what this whole series does. It does. It's like, hey, those little things that kind of keep you up at night. They're like, man, the apocalypse would be real shitty. And this movie's like, yeah, we're going to show you how shitty it is. To actually just like, if your city turned into like a civil war zone, this is what it would look like. And this movie, to me, is the first one in the series that has completely abandoned this sort of cartoon horror movie roots that the series kind of started at in some ways, and is just fully embracing the real life horror of what the Purge would look like. And part of that is like across the board in this film, there's better talent than in any of the other movies. They've moved, Frank Grillo.
Ethan Hawke feels like you're like throwing dirt on his grave or something. I don't know what's going on.
Listen, like
here.
I'm just saying, like there's like a tongue-in-cheekness to these other movies, even though they're dark, that is not in this movie. Like this movie is, and it is. What I love here is the nuance. Like, yes, it does lead to a feeling shaggy sometimes, but it is not just haves and have-nots. It is little things like you mentioned the mercenaries who are guarding the immigrants. And the guy doesn't give a shit about these people, but he's like, it's a really good way to make money. That concept is like, that's a very author way of adding a bunch of color to this world. Like, because that just automatically puts in your head what that kind of configuration is like for these people. So there's people that just hide from it. There's people that participate in it. There's people that disagree with it but don't know how to fix it because you're just, like that's kind of the sister and the wife. It's like, and the father. Who's that? What's that actor's name?
Oh, it's just looking William
Trotter.
Like these are people that are shown as like these are rich privileged people that are given safety by their money and power from the Purge. But you can tell the movie shows you like, hey, they're really uncomfortable with it and they don't know how to change it, right? So like that's how that character is presented. Yeah. My point being that, and even our main characters, like this couple of immigrants, like they're wrestling with this idea of like we came to America for a different kind of life, like and yes, we get that to some respect, but is it worth it for this?
Yeah,
like her point's like, this is what my city looked like every day, like she says to somebody at one point.
One question so again, I didn't see election year, but this movie, I don't have a ton of criticisms. I have some, but one of them is like the setup here is basically the new founding fathers won another election, and now the purge is back. Like
they get right back into it. Yeah,
it's sort of like, hold on a sec. We're supposed to believe we live in a world where everyone voted these people out because they wanted the purge to end, and then turned around and like voted the purge back in. I guess if Donald Trump gets elected,
John,
we voted out W. Bush, and then we brought in Trump like 8 years later.
Caitlin, what Caitlin just said, it's what Caitlin just said.
But hold on, there's like a
this is just that
scale.
This
when
is
you're
just
talking about the purge.
John, it's a movie, but it's a movie.
But
that's like exactly what this series. That's exactly illustrates my point about what this series does. It takes real things and it cranks the knob to 11. And it's like, let's see what this would look like in absurdo world.
The thing that I kind of like, again, whatever, it is what it is. And I took this on faith or I took it when watching the film, but like, why would immigrants come to this country? They would just be like, yeah, all right. Like I'm about to get like straight up murdered.
Well, what we're not given, because let's not forget that this does in some way feel a little like near future-y sometimes. Like every once in a while you get this little taste of like technology that feels like maybe we're projecting a little into the future. You don't know. What they don't give us is what Mexico might look like. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like
at the end we know what it looks like because that's where all the Americans are going to live.
So
and it is. I mean, it's still in theory one night. You know, it doesn't end up being one night because of the premise of this movie, but it is in theory still one night.
Do you want to be worried about getting murdered?
And if you're living this experience every day where you come from.
So here's my last point just about my feelings on it.
You convinced me that the purge is real.
The thing I think is especially prescient, and to Caitlin's point, yes, like people paying attention could have kind of predicted this, but it's, to me, it's so kind of, I love how much they nailed this idea that like what we have in this universe are essentially like rich white people who have used this idea of the purge to exploit underclasses for their own gain, right? Mm-hmm. But what has happened in the Forever Purge is that those underclasses have now become sentient and broken off from them and become too powerful for them to control. So this thing that used to be a tool for their control has now rebelled against everything, including them. It's not just we're rebelling against you. It's like, fuck you. Yeah. They've been emboldened. I mean, it is just fully January 6th. Like that's what it is. And it's like, or you look at when you see articles that are like, conservatives at CPAC like rallying against Fox News. And it's like, what snake eating its tail reality am I even in right now? And it's this, like, that's what this movie is playing out to the most absurd genre movie level you could think of. And to me, it's just that part of it I think is brilliant. Like, yes, it's a B movie. And yes, they're asking you to take a lot of leaps, but this is the most complete package of this concept that they've done so far, I think.
Oh, totally. But there's still moments in this movie where they really hit the nail on the head and like poignant. Then there's a scene with the dad, played by William Patton, when we're having this showdown with him and there's the people that have raided his ranch and is his former ranch hand, and he's talking to him and he's like, you're doing this so you're out from under our control, but you're just going to be under control of the other fat cats who have started this movement. And it made him stop and think. And that's that, like, just that line's like for me was like the heaviest moment of the movie. Oh, Jesus.
I did think that guy had an awful lot of composure for somebody who had a gun to his head. Like he just had this whole soliloquy like ready to go. Like this whole rebellion has only been real in his life for like 45 seconds, and he already has a fully formed monologue about why this guy's misdirected.
Well, he's lived in America for 65 years.
But basically, his argument is like, wouldn't you rather be exploited by me, and then I'll still pay you money? Like that's basically his argument.
There, like one way you can gauge a recommendation for this movie, like if you're talking to a friend and they're like, "Hey, should I see this movie?" You should ask them, how do you feel about when genre movies have like philosophizing in them? And if they're like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool sometimes, you can be like, great, you're going to fucking love this movie. And if they're like, oh no, I don't like that, then you'd be like, maybe sit this one out.
But it's punctuated and illustrated by so much action. And that to me is why I'm willing to go along with those couple of moments where it feels preachy.
I totally agree. The movie is self-aware enough. I mean, that explicit scene that Casey's talking about, that exact scene, he gets shot. It ends with him getting shot like between the eyes and like falling back, and like a pretty interesting like cinematography moment, So sorry, Caitlin, go ahead.
Well, I think so. Just to sort of like lay out where I'm coming from with this, I lean very far left, and I was reading some reviews. I know, can you
Yeah,
believe?
don't say.
And what I was reading from other people that lean far left was how ham-fisted this was, how like this is so silly, the dialogue is not great, and it's like, if you're coming from that perspective already, yeah, it's going to seem like a little ham-fisted and a little bit like, duh, we all get this. But for some people, like when I worked with a lot of immigrants and they were talking about the places that they come from, a lot of people that sort of disagreed with the work that we were doing, like, yeah, I mean, they need to come here, but, and I'm like, no, I don't think you understand what situation they're coming from. And this really paints a picture, sort of, someone that's in that position can put themselves as a proxy in the position of the Tucker family, where they're like, they conceptually kind of understand immigration and kind of understand why someone might seek asylum in another country. But now, even the wife is like, how do you know how to operate a weapon? And she's like, this is what my life was like. I had to learn how to operate a weapon.
And you see,
like,
and when she says that to her, the wife's like, oh my shit, dude. That's
Hold on.
like,
She doesn't just know how to operate a weapon. She's like a
she's a stone cold killer.
paramilitary badass.
No, but the wife that she has just explained this to, you then get that moment of look on her face, like holy shit, like, and that's my point. And Caitlin, you shouldn't read reviews. They're bad. They're bad for you. They don't.
Well, I mean, that's what made me want to talk about it though, is that like, I think, when you're in your bubble and like when I'm talking to other like left-leaning horror fans, they're like, oh yeah, it's a little on the nose. And I'm like, well, some people need that exposure and this is going to be that exposure. Yeah. So I'm glad that message is getting through in some capacity.
Well, it's interesting because
it
like
might be silly to us, but
if you,
that's the role that genre movies have played forever, is like
exactly.
This is also like
progressive ideas into the mainstream.
The entire concept of this series is about cranking reality up to 11. So if you're not going to lean into it, then like, what are you doing? You're not doing it right if you're not.
Ham-fisted, because otherwise, why go to the movie theater? Just turn on the news.
Yeah, you know what?
It feels like it's not even cranking it up to 11 for me anymore. It's like just a few steps removed of like if we got rid of like a couple of the niceties.
Well, yeah, no, of course. Like we don't. Yeah. So the other part, there's just I have to shout out to the scene in the third act where, so they're heading for the border, and just trying to dodge all this chaos along the way. And so of course, like a lot of these paramilitary people also heading for the border, because to me, if I'm in this reality, I'm not heading for the border, dude. That sounds like a shoot that you're gonna funnel into and then just get murdered. Yes, and that's what these groups are thinking as well. So everybody's kind of rushing to the border. There's a point in the third act at which they hit El Paso, Texas, which is like a border town, and there is a scene where our group of survivors basically has to war movie style, guerrilla warfare style, move through the streets while you have three factions in the streets. People just trying to survive and get to the border, these paramilitary people trying to purge, and the American military, because at this point, the new founding fathers have declared martial law and moved the military into basically, it's wild to think that you could deploy them this fast, but they're like, basically the military is going into every U.S. city to try to calm this like uprising. So what you get is, in my opinion, like a brilliant action scene where you have three factions. The cinematography, like the action, the directing in the scene is so good and chaotic. This was the scene that was like almost too much for me. Like I almost could not take how intense this scene was. I think it is like a shining moment in the movie for me, which then leads to basically them getting to the border and this really interesting role reversal of a bunch of people trying to get like coyoted out of America and into Mexico.
Yeah. And the message behind that, I think it was, I loved it because it was so simple, but that whole thing with them escaping to Mexico, and then you see that scene where they've set up the hospitals, they're opening their borders and let people in. It just boils down to somebody actually uses, they make a couple racist comments in one of those scenes when they're in the city, but throughout all of this, you know who the people that are not turning anybody away from help? The people that these people are all railing with. They're the ones that help, and it's
and that's
a good message.
That's the very interesting dichotomy about these movies, is that at the heart of the concept is a cynicism about like American culture, but at the heart of the scripts, like whether or not it's always done well, there's always like an optimism and heart to it, and characters who like basically find humanity in each other like throughout the course of it. And I think this, of all the movies, does the best job of spending time in those areas trying to develop that stuff.
I agree with you in principle, but it's pretty like you just have to like take it on. Like those aren't like, again, they're not like fleshed out characters. Like it's sort of like you get the Rose thing. They get, they get to the like whatever, the secret Rose meeting place.
My point is about our main characters though. It's about the way you see the main, the way you see like the artifice of the like self we present to the world. Like all that kind of melts away for these people once they are in a life or death, like purge situation.
Yeah, but at the same time, when you have these folks that are running around, actually enacting the forever purge and whatnot, and this group that's running around, and this leader that we said that they personify the whole movement into in the movie, and then when you see the folks from Mexico and whatnot welcoming these people, no point was there any resistance when the rancher and his sister and his wife showed up at like the Rose place or whatever, that somebody said, we don't trust you, you guys are after us, or we're not going to let you in because your people are after us.
There was that one dude who's like, who's this white lady? What's her deal?
Yeah. Which I did appreciate because I would be very suspicious.
Of course you would.
Who is this white lady?
Yeah, of course.
But they were always like, we're going to help. We're going to help you. White
Can I get a read on when the Dylan Tucker right at the end says thank you in Spanish? Was that he's like, gracias.
I don't remember him saying, did he say
I was
gracias?
like, it's coming. It's coming. It's coming. There it is.
That's an interesting thing.
A little, Peggy Hill to me.
That's an interesting thing. Navajo. That's an interesting thing too in this one, where there are multiple instances where two people who've just saved each other's lives and maybe didn't even know each other the second before now have about 0.5 seconds to say goodbye before they're both murdered again. And like, that's a really wild thing to think about. A person you'll never see again that just saved your life. And that character doesn't come back. I was pretty surprised. I kind of thought he would, but I like that it didn't, because that's more.
Which character?
The guy who saves her in the police wagon there. I don't think he comes back.
Oh, yeah.
That's
who's like her
character
boss.
That I would have liked to, that didn't
it's
really
her
get
boss.
fleshed
Got
out.
it.
Yeah.
Well, so then, but then it's
if he
similar.
got to his
Similar
family.
thing at the end, where he's thanking like the tribal leader. Like they basically just had Mad Max hand-to-hand combat warfare with white supremacists together, and like killed straight animal murdered all of these white supremacists, like just like total caveman style.
Literally
then,
put like skulls on their heads.
And then they're like,
Lassoed
and then he's just walking away and he goes, "You saved our lives. Thank you." And then he turns and walks away. And I just couldn't stop thinking about how weird. There is no interaction that does that justice, is my point, and it's a funny thing to watch play out.
That to me, with the Native American, with the like reservation piece, that was like set up because he's shown as a talking head a couple times. I think it's the same guy, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to say I'm going to sound like a racist if I got that wrong.
But I love that they included that. Again, it's just another wrinkle in all the different factions kind of.
But he's also, he says like he gets a little bit of like not philosophizing. There's a lot of him saying lots of just he gets his say in. He's like, oh, we've been doing this for 500 years. Yeah. And like he's going back to the reservation. Like that's his home. And like, so he was never gonna go with them, so that worked for me.
I could have seen.
Oh, go ahead, Casey.
I was going to say, I could have, to me, if I had like one criticism on this movie, I think the Native American character was the one that piece felt the most tacked on just to set up the crossing at the end.
Well,
going
they
through
had
the
to do
reservation.
something, right? Like the thing where I was going is like, I did love how it was very tasty to me in a good way that the film opens and closes with an illegal border crossing, which I define only as against the law.
I know.
That is not a judgment. It's like, because, and when I say illegal, like Mexico had opened their borders, but they make like a point of showing like, actually, we're going back because like they had lost El Paso. And so then it's like they had to find another way to get across that was not the proper way, I guess you'd say.
Well, and going back real quick to those guys before we leave the topic, part of me like cynically thinks like the black dude who's her boss in the beginning that helps her get out of the police van and saves her from the jigsaw type trap, and the Native American dude who's talking about his reservation. Like, cynically, part of me is like, they're setting it up for like more sequels or setting it up for like a third season.
Yeah, that one dude on the reservation that was blowing up cars with the bow and arrow with the dynamite sticks. I'd watch that guy in a movie.
Yeah.
I
get that guy more dynamite.
I loved
Beast.
I loved the image at the end, like how they did this image of basically the sky shot of the border and America's just on fire and Mexico is fine. Like that. Obviously, like, this is kind of the thing about any kind of criticisms about it being on the nose. Like, you can be on the nose if you also do things well, and if all of your on the noseness is backed up by plot turns, character things. Like, it's okay to be on the nose if you back it up. You know what I mean?
And if it's true.
Well, also, yes. Well, this is because I want to, because I was very critical of a movie like the Black Christmas remake, because in my opinion, it's a movie that doesn't do that. Like, it's a movie that does, all it does is talk and doesn't really back it up. That was sort of how I felt about it at the time. This is such a different thing, in my opinion.
And not to mention the fact, this is the 5th movie in the franchise, so it's no surprise that they're going to be hitting these points on the head. We know it's coming. Otherwise, I mean, it's fair if you didn't see the first 4 movies, but if you've seen anything Purge-wise, this isn't anything outrageous, really.
No, I totally agree. Look, to me, it actually, like, you earn the chance to, like, moralize to me by, like, having a bunch of dudes and ladies getting, like, their heads blown off and shit. I mean, it is pulpy. Like, that's, I don't know. It's the right vehicle to deliver that. If you had a movie that wasn't this pulpy and then was doing that kind of moralizing and kind of philosophizing, like, then you're just, like, rolling your eyes the whole time.
I mean, here's the thing,
or
John.
You can
like,
go really highbrow with it, like His House, which is also about immigration, and like and is equally as effective. Well, I mean, and like significantly
and is legit scary,
John.
Like, in a way that this movie
back
is
in,
not.
You have always. I feel like you were the first one years ago, like in another era of us as people and Bloody Good Horror, brought up this point that often, like, the B movies that are looked back upon as like the most kind of instructive about what society was like are kind of the most ridiculous B movies. And something like, the example is always Godzilla. You know what movie's on the nose, John? Godzilla. Nuclear power creates a giant lizard monster that kills everyone. Like, that's a pretty on the nose cultural criticism. My point being that, like, you know, I guarantee you that there are going to be, I'm sure there already have, but like books written about this series. Like, there are going to be film courses just talking about like cultural criticism in B movies, and you're going to watch all of these friggin' Purge movies.
Yeah.
These movies are
all of them. They might pick one.
But my point is that when you look back, when you think about growing up and reading about the political films of the 70s, like when you go into the future and you look back to now, these movies are going to play prominently in what people are looking back to like take the temperature of what it was like right now.
Yeah, you're going to see talking heads discussing this in a documentary at some point.
And it's
about
not
horrors.
because they are brilliant, perfectly crafted movies. It's because they are bold. It's because they are not afraid to like get into it, and it's just a brilliant premise. Like, it just is.
Yeah, and they've got that. The premise is a solid part, because like if you compare this to The Hunt, which was trying to do kind of the same thing, it comes across a little corny because they haven't built this premise up over 5 films, and they kind of jump into where the Purge would have been in like the middle of the series.
So you're saying stay tuned, Purge or The Hunt 5 is basically.
I mean, The Hunt. It's just,
No,
I don't remember The Hunt being very good. I was also like suffering a 24/7 panic attack because of the pandemic, so I'm not sure I was in like a great place when I watched The Hunt. But like, I don't remember it being very good.
But The Hunt tried to do the same thing and start off around Purge 3, essentially.
Fair.
Any other little things you guys want to talk about before we roll on here?
I do, and this is a spoiler, so just dropping a spoiler, but I loved the building of TT and Harper.
Yes!
Like, he tips his hat to her at the beginning, he tips his hat to her a couple other times, and it's like, I really was. I don't know. For
So
whatever reason,
this
that
is-
tenderness spoke
For
to
people
me.
who haven't seen it, this
Romance
is the
not dead.
for people who haven't seen it, this is the like privileged sister character and the our main character's friend who's an immigrant. Like they are real flirty and bonding with each other throughout the movie.
But right out of the gate, she's coded as like you're supposed to like her from the beginning because she like makes fun of her brother.
She like
for being a
emasculates her
jackass.
brother pretty much
Yeah.
immediately. Yeah.
But like they did, I think they did a good job. Like I don't know, they would quick cut to the cab of the truck and they're like leaning on each other, like holding hands. They go to not raid, but they go to get supplies at this convenience store and like he finds the peanut butter, she finds the jelly, and like
that was the best one.
and another time I probably would have been like, this is fucking stupid. But this I was like, it's so sweet. And like,
See?
I
love that.
heartbroken that TT doesn't make it. Like
Yes.
that is just. I was like, oh
I
my
know.
god, the real
Well,
tragedy.
somebody had to die.
Somebody
right?
had to
Like, you're
die,
not gonna
and
get
in-
all 6 of them.
Somebody had to die, and in movie language, it had to be that guy. Like you knew it was
know.
gonna be that guy.
I knew it.
They
had
were
to,
giving you
and
the
I was
least
just
amount of
so-
information about his life. That's how you knew it was gonna be him.
He's such
Well,
a
it cracks
hero,
me
though.
up because Colleen had said the exact same thing after that movie last night. She's
No, I
like,
mean-
"Why did they have to kill TT? I
If
wanted to
this
see them
movie,
move
like,
on."
there's a version of this movie that's probably like maybe they even wrote it where the Dylan character also dies because that to me like that if he had sacrificed himself to like get them over the border and then his child is born in Mexico, it's like that's like a more extreme version, but they did not have the balls.
I didn't even think about that. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually. This is the problem with like his arc is like he doesn't actually ever have to do anything all that difficult other than things he would have done otherwise to save himself.
Then just not
You
be
know.
racist,
Yeah.
like, be less
Yeah.
racist.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and they
I
were
mean,
kind of weak on his wife's character as well because like her main purpose was to be the thing that slows the group down that they have to watch out for, right?
But I would argue, John, that like the movie is still allowing. Well, and I guess whatever any movie does, but the movie's still allowing you to make your own judgment about how you feel about that character. I think all the movie is doing is being like, nobody in this scenario is well, except really for like the white supremacist gang. I feel like, but like no one else in this scenario is black or white, like on a conceptual level. Like they invite you in to see everyone's humanity in this movie, and then kind of make your own choice about like
Well,
what
but
you
the
think of
Purger,
them.
come on, the Purgers are all bad. Like
No, of course, but my
Yeah.
point is like, I think you could still make judgments on that guy in the end and say he kind of came around. He's still kind of a douche. Like that's my point. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
he
Case in
learned to
point-
say gracias.
Yeah.
I mean,
Case in point, up until they met up with the alpha leader and his little gang in El Paso that first time, I was still half expecting for Dylan to turn on him.
I gotta say, from a real, just logistical perspective, everyone in this movie is way too willing to get out of their car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They park that thing and he goes, "It's just a few blocks over. We can walk it." And I was like, "Motherfucker, are you insane?"
That he's driving a semi through the city and he's sweeping around people and whatnot. Like these
He's, like,
people
on
shoot
Main
each
Dude,
other. Just
that
go
made me
through.
that gave me so much
Or take
anxiety.
the highway.
It gave me so much anxiety when they're rolling through El Paso and they keep hitting corners that have basically been intentionally blocked off.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't deal with that. All right.
I do not know much about El Paso and like the border crossings there. Do you have to go through the city to get to that border crossing?
Well,
there,
that
do you
was
think?
my question too. I'm not sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
The city of El Paso, it like literally runs up against the Rio Grande, I believe,
Okay.
and like there's like a bridge you have to cross.
I know they didn't cover
Okay, I
that.
didn't know that much about it.
They didn't cover that in Breaking Bad, and that's the only knowledge I have of El Paso. So
The you know what? It's in oh fuck, what's the name of that movie? I think George Clooney's in it. By
Sicario.
Denis Villeneuve. Fuck, I'm gonna forget. But
I don't know.
it's like a drug deal, a Mexican drug cartel
Hey, John.
movie.
Would you like
Yeah.
to know who won our wager on when we would be back in the theater? Because this is the episode. We've all been to the theater, so
Do you have the original?
yeah.
guesses?
You know why? Because Joe's not here, and I was John. This is horrible. I was forced to look up my own top 10 list for this episode.
Oh no.
No, that's bad.
And
Yeah.
at the bottom of my top 10 list is all of our dates that we predicted for when we would be back in the theater.
Did we say closest without going over, or
I think that's fair. I think that's the Price is Right rules. I think that's how you do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I said I was, let's see if I'm judging this right. Joe did for someone who brags about his Excel skills, they're not in chronological order, so I don't have to stare at them and try to figure out which month comes first.
Do you need me to get you a calendar?
Closest
or
without
good?
going over. So only one person did not go over. Who do you think that was, John?
Wait, when you're saying go over, like
Only
if someone
one
guessed
person.
later,
Only one person did not guess a date in the future of now.
Interesting.
don't
I'm
think it was
guessing
me.
you had the latest date.
I will
think
say that Joe was the farthest off by far. He said October 15th.
I thought I said August.
Moving backwards, Joe said October 15th. Cece said September 8th. I said August 30th. Casey said August 1st. And John Schnars, July 10th, dude.
Ooh!
Wow.
You hit it within
Look
days.
at this guy.
Within days.
I went on the 11th.
Because honestly,
I went 12th.
Let's see. You said the 10th. So you were probably smart enough to look this up. That's Saturday. Yeah, like you got that. Dude.
I did not look up what day of the week it was, but yeah.
You got it, bro. You won.
Take the credit.
You win.
Well done,
Congratulations.
John. Well
You
done.
win absolutely nothing. But I hope you feel good about yourself. All right,
I feel
guys. Would you recommend the Forever Purge, Caitlin?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Casey?
Yes.
Samesies. That's what I say. All right, guys. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
It began in the outer reaches of the universe.
They're coming!
An alien war that spread throughout the galaxies. Now, the final battle has landed in the Browns' backyard. Critters. Check them out at a theater before they check you out at home. Critters. Rated PG-13.
Critters opening soon at a theater near you.
Greetings from Tromaville. This is Lloyd Kaufman, president of Troma Entertainment and creator of The Toxic Avenger. The Troma team likes to kick back and listen to Bloody Good Horror because Bloody Good Horror is the best television there is.
Send feedback to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or on Twitter using hashtag AskBGH. Join Patreon to get back episodes and much more. Patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror.
And we're back. Now it's time for theater stories. It's not even fair. Kaylin has the best theater story that's ever happened, and it makes me so mad.
That's the subjective.
I mean, to me, it's best. So this was my experience, John. I went to the movie. So I'd never been to this theater. I just Googled on my phone. I'm like, okay, this is the earliest showing. I have just enough time to get there. This is the first time I've really been to like a legit theater on here. So I go there, and it was kind of like an old funky mall a little bit. Like it was still an indoor mall, a little smelly. Like the theater smelled of must. Like let's say that.
Not urine?
Well, not urine. No, I didn't. No, I did use the bathroom. The urine situation was fine. So I see the movie, but I didn't really park in the right place. So I had to walk. I parked, went into the mall, walked a ways, went out of the mall to get to the theater was freestanding, even though it was kind of attached to the mall. Movie gets out. I go back to the door that I came out of. The mall's closed, John. I can't get back into the mall. So I'm like, cool, it's dark. I'm like, I got to get back to my car. I've never been here. John, I have the worst sense of direction of anyone you've ever met. So this is not a great situation. But you're muted, by the way. But I figure I figure, how do you get out of a maze, John? You just like pick a wall and you follow, right? So I figure
Is it dark? Like,
it's dark, but like, here's what I figure. I'll just keep walking around the mall. I mean, I guess that's my only choice. Like, it's a big ass mall, John. It's suburban America.
Yeah.
Like, they make them big out here. So I start walking around the mall, and I hit what I learned on today on Twitter is not necessarily a universal thing, which kind of surprised me. But up where I'm from, this is very universal, and that's what I would call the haunted part of the outside of the mall, where you basically come around the back of the mall where there are no storefronts, and it's just like people get murdered back there. I don't know what happens back there. But I had to walk all around that in the dark. I walked through a massive parking lot full of school buses, which 100% looks like a place you get murdered in, like Happy Death Day or something. I then had to walk down this terrifying like Dead Man's Curve road where you could like barely see because the mist was so thick and there was no sidewalk. Dude, I had to walk around probably 3/4 of the mall, like in a circle, before I could find my car.
Got your steps in, buddy.
I did.
You made it out.
Well, so I had to like, my mom had been texting me questions, so I just called her check-in. I was like, "Hey, you want to like hang out on the phone for a couple minutes?"
Will you talk to me to make sure?
I love it.
Yeah, that's cute.
My first theater experience was fun, but it not as scary as Eric's, not as good as Caitlin's, but we got to the movie theater about 25 minutes early, and there's two high school kids in there. I wrote their names down. It was Gavin and Madison.
That's adorable that you wrote their names down.
But these two kids are sitting there. We were sitting like one seat over. There's one seat between me and them, and Colleen was on the other side of me. But they were there early. They're chatty teenage kids, high schoolers, obviously, and they just talking. They're making comments about horror movies. Colleen and I are kind of giggling. They hear us giggling. They start asking us about horror movies, if we've seen the Purge movies and stuff. And I'm the type that'll talk to anybody, so we start talking back and forth with all of us, and he starts asking us questions, and he's like, wow, you guys, asking us who's your favorite slasher. His was Chucky, which, we're like, that's not quite a classic slasher, buddy, I'm sorry. But a lot of questions like that. He's like, you guys have watched a lot of movies. And we're like, yeah. And so then I dropped on him that I'm co-host for a podcast, that asked him if he ever heard from us. He hadn't heard from us, but then he's like, are you on Spotify? And then he went and started looking it up before the show on Spotify and subscribed. And I showed him the website and stuff. And he was all that we blew their minds. They, for a brief minute, I got to be a podcast celebrity in the theater.
Take that, Joe. That's really sweet, Casey. I like that.
You have a sweet story, though, too.
Yeah.
All right. Yes, Caitlin, you have a story about love. I hope marriage.
Oh, if only Joe were here to.
I know. I'm in Joe's joke lane here tonight. I'm trying to fill his shoes.
Well, this is my last week of fun employment. So yesterday I went to the theater and saw Black Widow. Nobody there. It was just like, I got my ticket. I walked right up and got my Diet
That's
Coke.
a dream,
easy
man.
breezy. Went to the theater today, and I texted Eric actually when I first got there, because there were like 80 to 90 3 to 6 year olds in the lobby, and I was like panicking because I was like, Eric, there are too many kids here. And
I understand.
In my head, I was like, oh, thank God I'm going to see an R-rated movie, so I don't have to be around these kids. And I even like joked to the ticket taker guy. I was like, are they going to see The Purge too? He was like, yuck. So I got to my theater, but little did I know how adult things would get.
P.S. Before you get to the main event here, I really I really enjoy your like awkward joking anecdote with the ticket taker.
Well, I saw him yesterday, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, friend.
Hey, friend.
Yeah.
I think we're friends. I think he's just like supremely annoyed.
Yeah, he's like, leave me alone.
He's like, please just go to your theater, ma'am. Which, first of all, like, I hate being called ma'am. Someone called me ma'am the other day, and I was like, not yet, please. But I got to my theater, and I was so relieved because there were none of those like daycare field trip kids in there, and there was just a couple in the very back. Probably.
How old were they? This is my main question for you.
I think they were probably 20 to 22. I'm thinking that they're college aged, but still living at home with their parents. That being a key component.
Yeah, it's summer too, so so you wouldn't have a dorm or something.
Right. So they were in the very back. That's usually where I sit, but I didn't want to be around people. So I sat 3 rows ahead of them.
Can I ask you a question? Is this flat
Yeah.
seating or stadium seating?
It's stadium that comes
Got
into
it.
play.
Did you ask her if it was flaccid seating?
It certainly was not.
What's the lay of the seating, Caitlin? What?
Stadium seating. They're in row J because I had to select a row and I had selected J, and I was whatever 3 letters ahead of J is. So I don't know how to. Charles is doing the math.
That's
for me.
G, I
that's
believe.
fortuitous.
But it was at the scene where they can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
It was at the scene where the ranch hand is doing his little overthrow of the Tucker family, and then TT and Juan come in and sort of wrangle things and get things straight. And I heard just slurping. Like, and I knew in my head already what was happening. I don't know why I turned around to confirm, but I did. And
because you're human, Caitlin. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I guess I needed to know, and I found out. So like the girl, like I caught her like dick in mouth. Like we made like I looked at her. I don't know if
you guys locked
her
eyes. You guys locked eyes. I love that.
Well, I like whipped my head very fast back to the screen, but like. I mean, because it was stadium seating, like his crotch area was like right where my eye line was. So like that's why I had like the vantage point of seeing her fully performing fellatio. And I pulled out my phone, which is something I never do because it's super rude, but I would have dared them to have said anything to me. But I pulled out my phone and immediately got on the email thread with you guys and let you know in real time what was happening.
Caitlin, they're not trying to make waves when this is happening. They're not going to be like, "Excuse me, ma'am, that's really rude to have your phone out." Like, if anything, you're going to help distract.
I kept texting you guys because it kept going. Like I kept hearing slurping and it had been like 20 minutes and either she was not good at it or he had incredible stamina, but I was just like, oh my God, it's not.
I mean, maybe they were just lounging, you know, like just hanging out.
I would have left. I think I would have got up and left.
Really?
I had no idea. I had like, you know how they say it's
John,
I would or freeze now. I froze.
No, I would have stayed for the story. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
how many times in your life are you going to get an anecdote like that, John?
I might have gone out and told your buddy at the ticket thing, like, yeah, you got to get in here.
Seriously,
they're making a lot of noise.
You're such a narc, John.
It was the noise that
I will say, yeah, like you listen,
like,
that could
be loud because the movie is fucking loud.
The movie's,
I could hear them during The Purge. Like,
the movie's so loud. That's a very good point. And yeah, the noise would be the annoying part of it for sure. Like, listen, that can be done quietly. I just would like to stay for the record.
If you're just like, shh.
My favorite part of this whole story is Caitlin's confirmation of what she thought she was seeing. I saw her dick in mouth.
No, I like the idea of Caitlin not turning around and being like, boy, this is some really weird Foley in this movie.
Well, it's funny because earlier...
Like, does this character have a bag of jelly in his pocket? Or like, what does that sound?
Well, when the immigrants are at like the YMCA type center, there's a lot of like background noise of like families talking and like chittering of like, I don't know, whatever. And I was like, huh. Or like, is this, I don't know. I turned around to confirm. And then like, I also am very short. I'm 5 feet tall. So I don't like, my head doesn't go over the seat. I had on all black, including a black baseball cap. So like, I was pretty, I guess, invisible to them. I don't know. So I started like shaking my drink really loudly to like let them know that like someone's here, but I also didn't want to be like, excuse me. So I mean, I let them finish, I guess. I don't know.
Rattling the drink like, I guess I'm out.
But no, I did not narc on them because
you know, just
as a parent, I relate to that. It's like walking in the room. Oh, I'm gonna go into the room, right?
Trying to make as much noise as humanly possible. Yeah.
Tell you what, when the credits rolled, I was out of there. Though. Like I could not have gotten up faster because I did not want to look at them. But then when I was in my car texting every person I've ever met what just happened, I saw them walk by and I was like, oh, there they are.
You know, Caitlin.
Celebrity sighting.
Just two lovers in the night, Caitlin. That's all that is.
Oh, young love, you know.
That's sweet.
Good for them, I guess. Not for me.
Casey, you all right, buddy?
Yeah, it just cracks me up.
I wanted to be like, babe, are you using your hand? Like, this is taking a long fucking time.
Maybe that was the goal, though. That's what I'm positing to you, Caitlin. Like, maybe they had a whole movie to burn through, I guess. Like,
It just doesn't seem.
sometimes people go to movies not because, like, they might not even cared what they were seeing. That's what I'm saying.
They didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
notoriously
did.
romantic.
The
The
face-
They didn't care who else was seeing it
The
with them. That's
The
for
face
sure.
you just made when you said they didn't was amazing. Okay, we gotta get moving here. We do have an email. It's gonna be like a 4-hour show. Let's see.
You gotta go
Um,
fast. It's gonna be speed round.
First up, Justin. My question for everyone, especially Cece, who's not here. My wife forbids me from having a Ouija board in the house. She thinks it's a portal for demons. I believe it's people communicating their thoughts from the subconscious. I don't really know what that means, sir, but that's interesting. What are your guys' thoughts? Any Ouija stories you can share? Justin from Nebraska.
Justin, I have 4 Ouija boards in my bedroom because I collect antique Ouija boards, and I have a cousin that won't let her kid, like when I babysit her kid, the kid will take a nap in my room, and my cousin's like, no, fuck that.
Wow.
So she's a believer like your wife is. I love having them in there, and they don't bother me.
I have
But
a
I don't
weird
use them.
I have a weird combination of like I don't think I believe in it, but also if you're like do this, I'm like maybe not. I don't know. Like, might as well
I
hedge my
definitely
bets.
Did it? Like when I was like in 4th to 6th grade.
I don't
that
think I ever-
range, I would guess.
Yeah, I don't think I
That's
ever
young.
did.
Maybe it was middle school. Yeah, like 6th grade. In any event, it's spooky. It's like a thing that kids should do. I would encourage
Like maybe
children
I've
of the impressionable age to try it. But I actually think Justin's theory that it is the subconscious. If anything's happening, that's what's happening.
yeah,
I
and
don't think there's fucking ghosts. All right, I'm just gonna put.
maybe
that
I've done it, but if something happened, I would have remembered, and I don't. I guess
Yeah.
is the larger point.
Maybe you were
Casey's
just on
gonna
drugs at the time.
Casey's. I mean, Casey's gonna pipe in right now and tell us that they're Ouija boards. 3,
Oh, I'm not.
2.
They're Ouija boards to me too.
Randy, long time. Randy says he did not like our movie last week, Werewolves Within. He wants to know what horror comedies did not land for you.
I can't think of one. I mean, I only remember the ones that I liked.
That's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
The mediocre ones just kind of fade away.
Mhm.
They are bad. Like if it's not hitting, it can be really rough. I mean, it's like any bad comedy.
I got
you know?
one, Dead and Breakfast.
I love that movie.
Wasn't crazy about it. I was also
God,
20 years ago or something that I saw that.
Yeah,
so.
I haven't seen that in forever. Like I don't remember anything.
That's it for emails. info@bloodygoodhorror.com if you want to hit us up. Next up, Instagram. First up, John, from our friend who doesn't use the form. They say, why is Eric so tiny in the feed tonight? I would like more Eric, please. He is smart and super cute.
Jesus Christ.
This person sounds
I was gonna
smart.
make a Newell joke.
I don't know who
Newells
they-
are small in general, but
I don't know who they are, John, but I like them. Let's see what we got. This is last week. Forgive me, I don't often look at our Instagram, John. The heat is on. I guess summer heat. How are you guys doing with summer heat?
oh my god, it's
Terrible.
been brutal here.
Yeah, it
It's
sucks.
just been all
The
rain.
humidity's just—it's not even it's not like fucking Arizona where I saw it was like 130 degrees. I mean,
Yeah, it's been
Can't
rainy
even
and cold
understand.
here actually.
Ugh, I'm jealous.
good for you.
This is a Joe question, but I'll read it. Going to Nashville soon. Any breweries or places to eat I shouldn't miss?
I've had a great time in Nashville. I've been there twice. I don't have any like strong recommendations, but you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It's a city about drinking and food and music and stuff. You'll be fine. Just go somewhere. What horror subs genre would you like to see more of?
Horror.
I really liked The Wind. I would love to see more frontier horror.
Dude, The Wind is
horror
real.
western. Yeah.
That's the answer. That's a good one.
Well, so
Yeah.
we didn't talk about it, but like I was a little annoyed at the marketing for this film because they did make it look like because I think and maybe
more
CC mentioned it was like
westerny.
post-apocalyptic western and like it just isn't. Like the
Yeah.
poster has like a guy riding a horse. Like there's horses in the movie, but there's no point where
Yeah,
someone's like riding
there's
a
no
horse.
iconic shot of like a Purger on a horse. Yeah.
It's just not a western film. Like there's no western stuff about it. I mean,
Yeah.
There's
You're-
plenty of shootouts and lassoing.
there's some lassoing.
Here's a great.
There are a lot of shootouts here.
Here's a great question. Do you collect anything?
Ouija boards.
Yes.
I collect Frankensteins.
Oh. Are those mugs?
Just anything with Frankenstein imagery on it.
That was a
like my action figure.
That was a portmanteau joke. Caitlin.
Or my rolling tray.
Okay, that's cool. I like that.
Or your tattoo.
Yes, or my tattoo.
John, do you collect? That's what I really want to know.
No.
You don't strike me as a collector.
I have a lot of
Children.
books. Yeah, I collect children.
Boom.
Got 'em.
Roasted.
Yeah. No, I don't. I've like thought about collecting things. I mean, when you live in an apartment in New York, it's very hard. Like you gotta. So.
I would collect more VHS if they were still out in the like. You have to be a lot more intentioned trying to find them these days. But I still have my VHS collection, and I look at it every day, John.
Eric,
cool.
my dad, and I talk about a lot about my mom because she listens, but my dad texted me. He was like, I know your friend collects VHS tapes. I have a box of 25. Do you want to go through them? And I was like, I do.
Caitlin, am I your friend? Is that who he's talking about? Dude,
Yeah.
Hell yes. Please. That sounds wonderful. Going to the Joe Bob Briggs thing this weekend. I'm excited. You familiar with this, John?
Oh,
they're doing a huge drive-in convention, basically.
In PA, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to. Just Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of those states when you live in the Northeast from where I am that's like seems kind of close, but it's not if you actually did it. Like it's not great.
Yeah. It's pretty big too. I mean, you know.
Addams Family or Munsters?
Addams Family.
I'm going to say neither.
Why not both?
Neither of those properties does anything for me.
The new Addams Family movie I quite enjoyed. Like the animated one for kids is a delight.
There's a sequel coming too.
Yeah, I think it's coming this year, right?
I caught a couple weeks ago part of one of the Addams Family. Like it must have been the sequel in the 90s where the lady finds a dude that looks like Fester and like dresses him up, and then he's like impersonating Fester. Have you seen this?
That's part one. That's Addams Family. Mm-hmm.
I don't get Addams Family. I don't get.
I want to watch it now that you said that.
This other thing, the Monsters. I don't get any of it. It doesn't make sense to me. Do you think Jim Varney, Ernest, would have been a good killer in a horror movie? Yeah. Yes, I do.
Why not?
Fear Street 94 or 78. I really enjoyed 94.
Find out next week.
So here's next week because Schnars hates me or something. I don't know. Like I want to see these movies, but John has proposed that we do all 3 Fear Street movies in one episode, which sounds like a recipe for disaster, but I think that's what we're going to do. So we'll find out. I've watched half of 94 and I enjoyed it, and then I got sleepy.
I would say 94.
When Joe inevitably gets canceled, what will the last straw be?
I don't know. I think he's beyond cancel now. Like, because it's like he says so much crazy shit.
Yeah.
It's going to be something completely stupid.
That is the strategy, right? I mean, look, like one strategy is what I do and just don't go on social media ever. The other strategy is just like only say insane things. And then people are like, maybe he's having an episode. I don't know.
That same person also had a question about Brock Lesnar that I'll skip because I'm the only one that really actually knows what he's talking about, and I won't subject the rest of you to it. But the answer is yes, Ryan. He is scarier with it. When can we expect the Sharks of the Corn review since Velocipaster and Killer Sofa got nixed? Sharks of the Corn, huh?
Probably never.
You'd have to ask Andy.
Yeah.
Andy, the editor of BGH. What was your horror gateway book/film?
Poltergeist.
It was the book for me, middle school.
Yeah, mine was Halloween 2 on VHS. Movie when he jumps out in the beginning there and stabs that girl with scissors messed me up, man. I didn't sleep for a whole summer.
I've mentioned watching The Gate on with my grandfather. My grandfather used to show me lots of inappropriate movies when I was like very little. So
that's it.
But did it have the original Gate in it?
Yes.
That's it for Instagram. Casey, let's rip through these Twitter things here.
All right. Tweets. Use the AskBGH hashtag. We have a few out here tonight. First up, we have longtime friend Skizbot. Do you have a signature dish you prepare when you go to family get-together or gatherings? I have a killer Sloppy Joe recipe and also make a mean slow cooker mac and cheese.
Yes, I make an orange cake from scratch, and
that sounds good.
this little like veggie thing where I take like the crescent roll dough and make it flat and then put like herbed cream cheese and fresh veggies on top.
That sounds good too.
It's real
Nice.
I don't actually do this, but I have before. I'm like the deviled egg guy. Like, and it's mostly because I get real offended when people mess up deviled eggs. So I'm just like, well, I gotta just do this myself.
I make a pretty mean crock pot potato soup with kielbasa in it.
That sounds real good.
I don't have anything. I've honestly cooked less during the pandemic than I had previously. I'm curious when we go back to New York if I'll like pick it back up again.
Next tweet from friend Alex Jones. Definitely not Alex Jones. What would be your weapon of choice if you chose to partake in the Purge? Schnars, you're paid for. Blackwater mercenaries are not allowed.
I mean, that's like there's so many things. Like there's so many like parlor conversation type topics around the Purge. Like this is one where, but it's like, why wouldn't you just have like a fucking huge machine gun? Like it seems like the people who were like
handguns
you've got
and stuff like that's what are you doing?
Well, and yeah, there's like the people out there with bats, and then they get like summarily executed.
Oh,
like,
I mean, this
Yeah.
whole like goat trap situation is insanely convoluted. Like, because
That-
my first
I
thought was,
honestly
why
think that
why
was
does she
from a
care about this
different
goat? Why is she
movie.
trying to let this goat out? Like, who cares?
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
do you
works
think
at a
those-
meat processing plant. Like, just-
Do you think
It's
those
not
two
like
dudes
she's
did
like
it-
an animal advocate or something, you know? Like,
But do you think those two spent the entire Purge hiding in that trash can waiting for somebody to come by and find that goat?
yeah, I think that's the whole plan. Yeah.
my weapon would just be seclusion. Like I would just go underground if possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not a weapon, Caitlin, but I feel you.
My weapon would be the fancy shutters that Schnars paid for. That comes down over my windows to save me.
There you go.
All right, next up, 2021, a Space Lawyers podcast. The Forever Purge is shorter than the Purge election year and the first Purge. What movies have misled you with their titles?
I see what
I saw this and it was such a good question.
I see what Adam's doing there. Also,
Yeah.
Adam was the one who fiercely debated me about my my theory about hour and 50-minute movies being trash.
Next up, we've got two from the Grim Reviewer. One of them's kind of involving Joe, so we're going to go ahead and ask the second one. If the Purge franchise keeps going, how long until they go supernatural or into space?
You know what, John? This movie's an hour and 44 minutes.
Yeah.
I think, you know what? I think as long as it's not over an hour 45, I think my theory still holds.
It is 6 blowjobs long. So sorry. I don't know. Space? Supernatural Purge?
Space Purge.
Is Supernatural Purge just zombies though?
I think they will have the.
They're getting close to the. Well, you know what though? You could always just be like, no, it's 50 years in the future and it's coming back. Like,
Or I mean, Branson, Musk, Bezos, they're in space. Like, let's go. Like,
yeah,
if there was
there's a
an
lot,
opportunity to purge
dude.
those dudes. I mean,
No, but there's a lot there that you could dig into with billionaire culture and stuff.
exactly.
Like that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, launch somebody up there with a machete.
I think they're going to be disciplined enough to not go. They won't go that crazy, but we'll see.
Let's see. The next up, we have Bionic Becky Tyler. That's at Becky Tyler Art. With the Emmy nominations released today, what horror shows, past and present, deserve more award credit than they received? Hannibal, Walking Dead, Dark, Castle Rock, The Haunting of Bly Manor, Hill House, Penny Dreadful.
I'm gonna get roasted for this, and I don't care. I love American Horror Story, and I would love to see more accolades for my stupid trash show that I love.
I'm gonna say Dexter, like, and I think that's not a super controversial thing because the last few seasons were so bad. But I've tried to go back and watch the first few seasons that I was like obsessed with, and I think a show like Dexter for me is similar to The Sopranos, where it was so early in prestige TV that just the fact that it was doing that was so revolutionary. They were pretty mind-blowing shows that really I don't think The Sopranos holds up like at all, and I don't think Dexter really does either.
Wait, have you gone back to watch Sopranos?
No, I
instead?
watched Sopranos fresh like 5 years ago, and I was like, this show is bad and I don't like it.
Wait, Casey, the question was which shows deserve more accolades, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I stand by American Horror Story then.
Yeah. No, that's fair. All
Ooh,
right.
good one here.
Well, then let's move on. Next up, our friends Dads from the Crypt. You can follow them at Crypt Dads. Check out their podcast named Dads from the Crypt. FMK, Christopher Reeves, Christopher Guest, or Christopher Lee.
Give it to me one more time. I was
Reeves,
distracted.
Guest, and Lee.
Yes.
Is Christopher Lee alive? I think he's dead.
He is dead.
Oh, and so is Christopher
These
Reeves is
all
definitely
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
would go.
I think you F.
I would
Christopher
go
Guest is alive.
I think you F Reeves. I mean, clearly the man was.
I think
beautiful.
you're marrying Guest for the just like insanity of it.
I'd marry Guest because he makes me laugh.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm. That's
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm-
yeah. That's fair. I think. Yeah, I think you're.
I would have to F Christopher Lee because of my Hammer horror fandom.
I think you're killing
Yeah.
Christopher Lee because he's so intense. I don't want to be near that any kind of energy in my life.
It's got like there's like a Skeletor vibe going on there that so.
But he has that hypnotism power.
Yeah,
Size.
I'm going kill Lee, F Reeves, and marry Guest. That's my final answer.
There you go.
Anybody else?
No.
All right. Last up, we have our good friend Alyssa at Big Tex Tozier. What was your favorite subject in school or your least favorite?
Mine was history. I loved history.
I swept every year at the Spanish Awards.
The Spanish Awards.
Got the Spanish award every year. Yeah,
Oh,
gracias,
God.
if you will. And I got
were-
the physics awards. I'll go Spanish and physics.
Wow.
Yeah, physics was definitely one of mine too.
You're
really
like smart. Like smart. That's wild.
yeah, she went to a second-rate university, but otherwise,
Okay.
Truly, I just, do a whole podcast on that, Schnars. Don't get me
Just
started.
listen, John. I've gone this whole Purge episode without mentioning Duke. Let's not
I
push
know,
too far.
I know. But come on, in the hierarchy, UVA's up there. They just took down the Robert E. Lee statue in Charlottesville, so
No, fuck those people, like through and through. Hate that place.
I know you're. I'm just giving you a hard time.
My senior year of high school, all of high school, I was a professional band geek, like all in. My senior year, I had government econ, math, and English, which were my required courses. And then the rest of the day was nothing but music classes. Just good stuff.
My least favorite was math. Like my brain is not wired for math, and it was torture for me. It was a source of like much torture and consternation for my entire schooling.
We noticed when you had to figure out which month came before.
Yeah, that was not pleasant for me, John.
Well, Eric and Schnars, to top off my smart kid in the South, I had to take an optional history course one year. I didn't have to, but I decided to, and I took Civil War history. I was the only girl in the class, and I got the award for my battle plan, which gives me mixed feelings about that whole scenario. So I got the award for Civil War.
I mean,
history.
how hard's a Civil War battle plan? It's like go to these woods and shoot the people, and do it faster than they shoot you while you're standing staring at each other.
Mr. Bell,
anything
a Civil
great.
War reenactor, was very impressed with me.
Yeah.
Then
I
we're
hope
gonna go
he's
to
alive
this
today.
field, and we're gonna shoot these people. And
Kayla, did you read Killer Angels? Did you have to read Killer Angels?
No,
Oh man.
must not have been a
lot of
A lucky
battlefield diagrams in that
Oh,
book.
Christ.
So.
Cool.
And that's it for tweets, folks.
I love it. Thank you, Casey. I guess we're doing all 3 Fear Street movies next week. I guess.
I'm starting watching them tomorrow.
I love it. You're just so ambitious, John. I do appreciate that. So that's why I'm going with it, because I like this enthusiasm from you centered around this show.
Well, Casey's already he's 2/3 of the way done. Like,
Yeah, I'm all in.
Yeah.
So okay.
But now you've set it up as a thing I have to do, and now it sounds exhausting to do.
Yeah.
Even though like I actively want to watch
I
these
can't wait
movies.
till you haven't watched any of them on like Tuesday afternoon. You're like, oh, I'm starting the movies.
Eric,
Like,
you
all right.
have the best tutor in this
Yes.
like whole setup, though.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I have a person on my side that actually knows everything about these books and is very enthusiastic about them. So,
You're well
excited.
set up. Come on.
Yes,
I wasn't worried.
She will be my Sherpa. All right, that's it. That's gonna do it for the Forever Purge. We're still here. We're doing it. It's horror season, folks. We'll see you next week.
See you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.